The Lions looked fantastic on Monday Night Football. Do they have the number one running back and the number one wide receiver in our dynasty leagues? We'll break it down next.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. He is Michael Fabiano. And on today's show, we're breaking down that really fun Ravens-Lions Monday Night Football game. We're also going to talk about Saquon Barkley at the end of the show, so make sure you tune in for that. But I want to start with this, Fabs. David Montgomery had a huge game, 12 carries for 151 yards and two touchdowns, but we're actually not going to talk about him. I want to talk about Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jahmyr Gibbs, 22 carries for 67 yards and two touchdowns. He also caught 5 passes for 32 yards. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown, 7 catches for 77 yards and a touchdown. I'm starting to wonder if the Lions don't have the number one running back and the number one receiver in our dynasty leagues.
Ooh, that's bold, Cotton. I mean, maybe not with the running back situation.
No, because I think
it's between Jahmyr and Bijan right now for the one spot. I'd probably go Bijan myself, but I mean, listen, Jahmyr Gibbs is coming off of an amazing season where he was the number one running back in fantasy football. People think it was Barkley, but it wasn't. It was actually Jahmyr Gibbs. And on the strength of those 20 touchdowns, we all kind of expected some sort of touchdown regression to come, but he's certainly well on his way to scoring double-digit touchdowns this season. So he's certainly in the 1 or 2 spot at running back. Now, Amon-Ra, I love him. Big fan of Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's been mostly fantastic in his career. I still would even put like Malik Neighbors ahead of him just because of the age. And I think he's going to have a developing rapport with Jackson Dart whenever he begins to be the quarterback in New York, which may or may not happen sooner rather than later. We'll find out. But Amon-Ra is fantastic. It's more of an age thing. He's not old by any stretch of the imagination.
He's 25. He turns 26 in October. So you are
right.
getting a couple years older.
Right. But a guy like Neighbors, much younger, for example. And I can understand like the other arguments, obviously Jamar Chase, obviously Justin Jefferson. But for this season, if you told me that Amon-Ra St. Brown was going to score more points than both of those players, and he's going to have more than CeeDee Lamb because CeeDee's out for multiple weeks, I would not argue against that. Like there is a world where Amon-Ra St. Brown is maybe number 2 behind Puka Nacua, who I also would rank ahead of Amon-Ra in Dynasty as well. But Amon-Ra is an absolute beast and maybe one of the most consistent wide receivers in fantasy football.
I've always had Amon-Ra, a tier below that Chase, Jefferson, Lamb, Neighbors, group, and in that Puka range. But man, the more you watch him, he's just so doggone consistent, and this offense features him so much, and they give him so many touches. It's just, I'm getting to the point where at the very worst, there's not a tier break between those guys because he's just so consistent. And he plays a bunch of these games, which is, kind of been the knock for some of the other receivers, whether it's Neighbors got a foot injury, Lamb had a shoulder injury. Now he's got a high ankle. Chase has missed games. Jefferson has missed games. And I know you can't base everything on, a couple fluke injuries. I just really like Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's one of my favorite players in the NFL right now. And there's just something to be said about his consistency game in and game out.
It's also the offense too, and really the roster. How many times did the Lions get into shootouts? I mean, those teams combined last night put up 69 points. I mean, 68, whatever it was. Like it seems like the Lions are always playing, maybe not always, but very often playing in high scoring games where the defense is not able to stop the offense, but the offense is so explosive that they can stay with the opposing offense in terms of the points that they're scoring and the yardage that they're putting up. So it's a perfect fit. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown was not a highly touted wide receiver coming out of Southern California. He wasn't. He wasn't like, for example, like a Malik Neighbors or a Jamar or a Justin, but he has been close to, if not as good as those guys in his career.
I want to ask you about Jameson Williams because he had a huge week against Chicago, 4 catches, 108 yards, and a touchdown. But in a shootout game against Baltimore, 3 catches for 43 yards. He's already had a game this year against Green Bay, 4 catches for 23 yards. Is this just what it's going to be for Jameson Williams? It's these spike weeks, but you can never really count on him week to week.
Yeah, all those points came in the first quarter. He scored 6.3 points. Remember, he had those catches in the first quarter, and we're like, oh man, it looks like Jameson's going to go off. He didn't do anything the rest of the game. This game had 2 surprises to me. Now Jameson has never been consistent, and that's been a problem from a fantasy standpoint. He's explosive. He's got the talent, but he's also got a lot of mouths to feed. And when Gibbs and Montgomery are running the ball like they did last night, I mean, David Montgomery averaged almost 13 yards a carry.
One long run helped, yes.
Yeah, but I mean, he did it, right? I mean, so it's same with LaPorta. LaPorta didn't have a good game last night. So you have so much talent, and the ground game. I mean, listen, Jared Goff threw for 202 yards, and they scored all those points. They were having success on the ground. So a lot of times, game script and sort of what happens in terms of the development of the game and what an offense is able to make vulnerable on the defensive side of the football. And that was last night, the Ravens run defense. So yeah, I mean, Jameson's going to have, they got Cleveland coming up next. That's a bad matchup. Are you going to start Jameson Williams? I mean, I don't know. It might be a rough one, but that's what you're going to get. You're going to get, like you said, you're going to get these boom games like, oh man, Jameson Williams, he's ready to break out. I got to start this guy every week. And then he comes out last night, even in a game that had a ton of points, and he was only able to score 6.3, and it was all in one quarter, the first.
I'm a little bit worried about Jameson Williams because the talent's there. It's just that, and if you're valuing him as like a top 25 dynasty receiver, which that's how he's being drafted right now, and you have just these every other game, you're not even going to get 50 receiving yards. I don't know what to do here, Fabs, because you're basically not hoping, but you need an injury to happen for him to get more targets and more opportunities. And I just don't see that happening anytime soon.
But he has that ceiling. I think we've kind of known that, right? I mean, like he could finish in the top 24 in fantasy points. I mean, like it's not something that's impossible. But the problem is that you're going to have peaks and valleys and ebbs and flows. And there's going to be big weeks. And then you're going to be like, oh man. And then there's going to be weeks like last night where he had a stinker. That's just Jameson Williams. And as you said, he's not the alpha, and he won't be unless injuries occur. And Amon-Ra St. Brown's been pretty damn durable, and I don't know if there's any wood around, but I'd be knocking on it right now. But I'm not concerned about him at all. Jameson Williams is what he is. He is a wide receiver 2 type who at the end of the year, the points will be there, but the consistency will often not be there. So you're going to have to deal with some headaches with him along with some big games.
One more player I wanted to mention on the Detroit side of things, Sam LaPorta. 4 catches for 33 yards, has not gotten into the end zone once this year through 3 games, 13 catches, 138 yards, and no touchdowns. Over the last 2 seasons, he's averaging about 45 receiving yards per game. Now, he does have some touchdowns, 7 in 19 games. But it just feels so different compared to what we saw as a rookie when he was, the number 1, number 2 fantasy tight end. He's still being valued and drafted as a top 5 dynasty tight end. But man, I don't know if I'm there anymore.
Well, that's because tight end's a dumpster fire and he's young.
That's part of it.
And the second half of last season, he was really good. If you remember, in the first half, people were like, what the hell's going on? And then in the second half of the season, he started to look more like rookie LaPorta. But tight end's a nightmare. It is an absolute nightmare of a position. Travis Kelce had long been the elite guy. He's old now. I mean, he for all intents and purposes right now, he's a matchup-based starter, but you can't even not play him because there's nobody else to play.
No.
Like, that's how bad it is. Like, you and I touted Jake Ferguson, and so far through 3 weeks, we were right. Juwan Johnson has started to pop a little bit here and there. He's getting a lot of targets. He doesn't have a great matchup this week against Buffalo. But there are some players who have moved up. But tight end overall, I mean, Brock Bowers has not been great so far through 3 weeks. He has not. Tight end is a dumpster fire. And that's why LaPorta, because of his youth and because of what he's done in the past, has kind of kept that position in terms of being like more of a higher end dynasty tight end. But at the end of the day, I don't know, unless you've got Trey McBride. At some point we hope that Bowers is more consistent, much like he was last year. But I even said, like, he's not doing what he did last year again. It's just not going to happen.
He's banged up right now. I mean,
I get it. For whatever reason it is, regression is going to come. Yeah. But tight end's just an awful position. And we'll talk about Mark Andrews here because I'm not rushing to start him next week against Kansas City just because of what he did last night.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the Baltimore side of things, because I really thought this was going to be a game where they were going to go out and score a bunch of points. And to their credit, they kind of did. But it was very strange what happened with Derrick Henry. We will get to him next. This episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5 Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. What I love the most about 5 Hour Energy is how portable they are. Like for me, I stick them in the truck or I put them in my golf bag and they're ready whenever I need to get that boost to help me get through the day. I love all of their flavors. I've been trying some of the new ones lately. I can't tell you how much I recommend it. So enough with the boring flavorless caffeine, the coffee, you try to get your diet soda in. It's time to give caffeine a flavor upgrade with a 5 Hour Energy shot. Get the favorites that you love or be bold and try something new in store or online at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Fabs, let's talk about Derrick Henry because he had a really nice rushing touchdown in the first quarter, a 28-yard score. And then the rest of the game, not much of anything. 12 carries for 50 yards and a touchdown. He had that back-breaking fumble at the end of the game, his third fumble in 3 games.
Yep.
What's going on?
I was shocked. He had 10.7 points last night, and 9.6 came in the first quarter. They just didn't give him the ball. And I mentioned the Ravens scored a lot of points in that game last night. Derrick Henry did not have a good game.
No.
Right? He did not. He had a good first quarter, and then I don't know what happened. They didn't give him the ball. And it wasn't like this was like they were getting blown out. This game was a back and forth type of game. So it was odd that they didn't give him the ball. And then obviously he fumbled late, like you mentioned, and that was that one cost him. But Zay Flowers had 3 targets in this game. Like if you told me the Ravens were going to score that many points, I'm like, oh man, I love Zay Flowers in this game. It did nothing. And it was just a reminder that Zay Flowers is inconsistent. He's kind of like Jameson Williams in some respects, maybe a little more consistent, but not that much. He'll put up a big stat line and then he'll break your heart. But as for Henry, I don't get it. I don't understand why they went away from him after he had, popped that long touchdown run. Well, not long, but a pretty good touchdown run. Very strange to me. I'm not exactly sure what the issue was there, but it's not like you're not going to play Derrick Henry. He's got Kansas City coming up, and really it's a big game for both teams now. I mean, the Ravens have one win? And
they're both 1 win. One of these teams is going to be 1-3 after 4 weeks.
Right, exactly. So it's not like we're benching Derrick Henry, but it just felt a little odd that he got off to such a hot start and then they went away from him.
Part of the issue, I think, is, and for whatever reason, they're really struggling in the red zone. And Derrick Henry was getting some of these goal line touches and just couldn't convert any of them. And I don't know if it was because of, Detroit's defense really standing up. They didn't have Patrick Ricard, who is their fullback, who does a lot of the dirty work, kind of carving out these holes, but he wasn't in on the red zone. He's not in on passing downs. He's not in on any of the second and longs, third and longs. And the Ravens got into a lot of those situations on Monday night where it was an obvious pass and he's just off the field. You would think for a game script where, for the most part, this game was close throughout, that this would be a strong Derrick Henry game, but he just wasn't all that involved. And now I'm wondering with the fumbles, if it's in his own head, and that can linger. And I mean, I think he'll bounce back. I think he'll be okay, but I do wonder if you're starting to see some cracks here.
Yeah, it's possible. Then you go back to what he did in week 1 and you're like, okay, this guy doesn't age. I mean, he's like the anti running back trend where once you hit 30, things start to fall apart and he just continues to be excellent. Maybe there's going to be a little bit more inconsistency in his game this season. He has had a lot of carries. Again, not telling you that you're going to sit him.
No, of
but
course not.
it's very unlike Derrick Henry to fumble this many times. And it's very strange that he did not get more work after ripping off that touchdown run in the first quarter. Again, he scored 1.7 points in the final 3 quarters of that game. That is very un-Derrick Henry-like.
We should mention Mark Andrews in this game. 6 catches for 91 yards and 2 touchdowns. I thought he, outside of just a production, I thought he looked really good. Some of the throws that Lamar made to him were unbelievable. I think Isaiah Likely is going to be coming back either this week or next week.
Yeah.
And that'll make things a little bit more complicated. But I don't think Andrews is completely washed or out of this offense. I just think for whatever reason, it takes him a couple weeks into the season to kind of get ramped up. And now we're back to him being a every week starter.
I mean, I don't know about that. You have to play him because tight end is a dumpster fire.
That's
right.
part of it. We've lost so many tight ends between like Jonnu Smith going to Pittsburgh and basically nuking that situation for him and Pat Freiermuth. And the same thing with like David Njoku and Harold Fannin. So like I know the concerns with Andrews, but at least he's going to be on the field a bunch in an offense that's going to score a lot of points.
He was in an offense that scored a lot of points, the first 2 weeks and did nothing. And then, last week he did drop a touchdown, which I was like, dude, I mean, come on, you got to be kidding me. But I will say this. I'm selling on Mark Andrews right now. And I know maybe you're not going to get a lot for him because he's an older player, but a lot of people are hurting at tight end right now. If you have tight end depth, I'd be selling on him because I don't think he's going to be consistent. That touchdown regression is coming for him. I know he scored twice last night. He's not going to score 11 like he did last year. And look at him historically against the Chiefs. He has been awful against them. And that's who they play this week at Arrowhead. So I think Andrews is going to fall back down next week. And then, as you mentioned, Isaiah Likely will be back. I think that this is going to be a tough pass attack for a lot of fantasy managers to predict because we didn't love Andrews coming into this game because he had done nothing, but we did love Zay Flowers and he did zip. Instead, it was Rashad Bateman who had 7 targets, a touchdown, and over 17 fantasy points. That's kind of what the Ravens are. Right? There's going to be heroes and zeros, and they're going to be the same people on different weeks. So yeah, Andrews was great last night. And he'll have his share of good games, but he is not going to be consistent. And that's a problem for me. And that's why if I can get rid of him and sell high now on what's probably the best game he's going to have this year, I would certainly do it.
Real quick, before we go and talk about Saquon Barkley, we just need to appreciate Lamar Jackson. He's just such a fun and unique. 21 of 27 for 288 yards and 3 touchdowns. Baltimore was not blocking at all. I mean, some of the wins that Aiden Hutchinson got right off the edge were unbelievable. I mean, he was winning off the snap. He got sacked 7 times. He was trying to make big plays, but I mean, I thought for the most part, Lamar was unbelievable on Monday Night Football.
It's amazing to think that he did not get drafted until the last pick in the first round when the Ravens traded up to get him that year. And a lot of teams thought that he would be better served as a running back. Nice job there, scouts, because you didn't know what the hell you were talking about. Lamar Jackson has become, I mean, he's right there with Josh Allen. From a fantasy standpoint, he's right there. He had the best season any quarterback's ever had in fantasy football last year. And I was expecting some regression, and maybe it will come. But boy, he started absolutely on fire in the first 3 weeks. So Lamar Jackson's just fantastic.
Yeah, so this year he's at 9 passing touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He also has a rushing touchdown. So you're at 10 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and he's averaging 9.6 yards an attempt.
And he's such a good passer, and that was maybe one of the question marks coming into his NFL career about him. You throw those out.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. All right, let's talk about Saquon Barkley because, Fabs, you've been predicting a little bit of a slump after the great season he had last year, and through 3 games, we're there. Let's talk about it next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure that you are ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet, whether that's player props, building a same game parlay, or even jumping in as the live action is unfolding. It makes every game even more exciting, whether you're watching your favorite team or just keeping an eye on your dynasty lineups. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add just a little bit more energy and juice to your Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. The NFL season is finally here. I can't believe that we're already into week 4. For your second listen, though, get the daily dose of the Locked On NFL Podcast. Tyler, the Madman Roland, gives you a shot of espresso to start your football day, while Tony Wiggins takes you to the barbershop for the smoothest breakdowns. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. All right, Fabs, let's talk about Saquon Barkley, who had kind of another ho-hum day against the Los Angeles Rams. Now, the Eagles had to throw the ball a bunch in the second half, so that played a part of it. But 18 carries for 46 yards, no touchdowns, did catch 4 passes for 9 yards to save you in PPR leagues. But through 3 games, he's only averaging 3.3 yards per carry.
Yeah, but this falls in line with 2,000-yard rushers. We talked about Derrick Henry earlier in the program. Same thing happened to him. He ended up missing time after rushing for 2,000 yards. And the curse of 370, take it for what it is. And all those carries, over 400 carries combined, regular season and playoffs. Saquon Barkley's a human being. He had a lot of work. And so I'm not surprised this has happened. In fact, this is kind of what I predicted. If you look at his projected totals right now, based on what he's done in 3 games, he's on pace for 1,100 yards on the ground. That's a huge decline from last year. 221 receiving yards, 11 touchdowns, and 257 fantasy points. It's not bad, but 257 fantasy points would have finished as the running back 10 last year. So, and his pace is also 100 points fewer than he had last year, which is kind of what I said, right? Eric Dickerson is the only player who rushed for 2,000 yards in NFL history who did not see a decline of more than 100 fantasy points the following year. And he was at 99 points and change. So you can't be surprised at this. I'm just hoping he stays healthy for the entire season. That would be a win, because I'm not saying Saquon Barkley's not one of the top 10 running backs in fantasy, because I think he is, but I think he's closer to the back end of the top 10 now than near the top of it as he was last year. It's just, history matters, when you're looking at these kind of things. I mean, look at Jahmyr Chase. Jahmyr Chase has got no chance to even come close to scoring 400 points this year. In fact, he's on pace for more like 270. 280. It's a huge drop off. Huge. It's really hard to duplicate a magical season. It just really is, no matter who you are. The quarterbacks have a little bit easier of a time of it. We see it with Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson all the time. But these running backs, these wide receivers, a lot of times the numbers just drop. And he's got Kansas City. He's got the Buccaneers this week. Mm-hmm. The Buccaneers defense is going to be geared up to stop him on the ground. And are you sitting Saquon? No, of course not. Of course not. But this is the reason why I didn't like Saquon, where he was going in Dynasty. He was going too high. He's 28 years old. And think about this. This is the year, 28, 29 season. And if this season he drops 100 points, what's next? What happens when he's closer to 30? History says that, the decrease in production is going to continue. Maybe it won't, because Saquon's an elite athlete and he's a great player, but we're already starting to see it. We're already starting to see the decline that myself and maybe some other folks out there did predict, because it's so difficult to duplicate that magical season. And Saquon Barkley, again, 3.3 yards per carry after 3 games last year. Now, of course, he wasn't going to be able to sustain this. He was on pace for 480 points. He had an amazing start to last season. And this year has been very, let's just say, unimpressive.
So let's talk about it from a dynasty perspective on what you do with him, because right now he's being drafted as RB5 in startup drafts.
So high.
It is high. Now, I want to go through some of the guys that are being drafted behind him, because there are a couple names that I like, but I don't know for the next 3 years how I would handle it. So like Devon Achane, how would you handle that one?
No, I've always had Achane ahead of Barkley.
O'Marion Hampton.
I know O'Marion's had 2 stinkers out of 3 games, but he's wicked young, man. Like, yeah,
I think the Najee injury makes that one. Honestly,
Right.
I think if not, the hard part is for Hampton is you're drafting him for what he's going to do over the next 4 years, not just this year. But I think this year was going to. We were trending in a bad spot. I think the Najee injury is going to open up a lot of opportunities here. What about Trevion Henderson?
But see, that one's a tough one because Henderson has not lived up to expectation, but it's 3 weeks. It's 3 weeks.
It's just, what do you envision Henderson being?
I probably would rather have Henderson for the long haul.
Okay. I probably would take Barkley just because I always wonder that if Henderson's just going to be a part-time player and not a feature back. But it's close. Jonathan Taylor, RB9.
I love Jonathan Taylor, man. Yeah, much rather have Jonathan Taylor.
The first podcast that you and I ever did together predicted Jonathan Taylor was going to be the #1 running back that year. He did.
He might. I remember. I think you said something about him being, this year's Barkley. So far, so good.
Yeah. Kyron Williams.
Rather have Kyron.
I think I'll take Barkley. Blake Corum's playing a little bit too much for me right now.
Kyron is just consistent every single season, double-digit touchdowns, and he's younger.
I don't love how much Blake Corum is playing right now. And actually, I think Blake Corum looks really good. Can I give you a name that's crazy to me? James Cook, RB16. I would rather have Saquon. Or sorry,
why are people drunk right now? How is he the 16? Like 1-6, like Joe Montana's number?
I'd rather
insane
have
value, and it's crazy.
Here's the thing, though. I don't think you're going to have to be. If you have Saquon, I don't think you're going to need to be able to trade Saquon straight up for James Cook. I think you're going to be able to get something else with it. But if I had to, I would swap them. I love James Cook. He looks awesome in this Buffalo offense. That's maybe the best offensive line in the league outside of Philadelphia. He doesn't have the wear and tear on his body that Saquon does. And he catches 1 million passes out of the backfield. Give me James Cook, who I just think is unbelievably undervalued.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Okay. All right. That is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty Football your first listen every single day. Check out the show on YouTube. Download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Follow Fabs on Twitter at Michael_Fabiano. I'm at Marcus_Mosher, and we will see you right back here tomorrow.